Number two was probably worse. People hunted them. They killed them. Now, they didn't call them dinosaur, though. They called them dragon. See, the word dinosaur wasn't made up till 1841. So for most of human history, these creatures are called dragons. Did you know dinosaurs not even in the dictionary in 1891? For most of human history, they were known as dragons. Now, dragons are mentioned in the Bible 34 times. People say, why aren't dinosaurs in the Bible? Last night, I'm talking to this lady at the counter at the hotel. She said, well, dinosaurs aren't in the Bible. I said, that's correct. That word wasn't made up till 1841. And if you got the right Bible, that was translated 1611. So, of course, you're not going to find that word in there. Duh. But they called them dragons. Dragons are listed in the dictionary in 1946 as now rare. As the population of people began to grow after the flood, the population of dragons began to go down because nobody wants to live next door to a dragon. Same thing happened in Cobb County, Georgia, where Atlanta is today. Do you realize how many grizzly bears there are roaming around the woods right now near Atlanta, Georgia? 0. Do you know how many there were just 300 years ago? Hundreds. What happened to the grizzly bears in Cobb County, Georgia? Well, as people move in and civilize an area, the big ferocious animals are killed off or driven off. Happens everywhere. If it came on the evening news tonight that there were 5 grizzly bears roaming around Cobb County, do you know what would happen by 6 o'clock in the morning? They'd all be dead. Because every redneck in 4 states would be out there with a rifle trying to shoot one, right? And whoever could shoot the biggest one would be a hero. They'd have his picture on the front page. Hey, Bubba shot the grizzly bear and saved the village. Yeah, he did. Well, that's exactly what happened to the dragons. Man, if you could figure out a way to kill a dragon, they'd be telling stories about you around the campfire from now on. People killed dragons for meat because they were a menace, to prove you're a hero, to prove you're superior, competition for land, or for medicinal purposes. Many ancient recipes call for dragon blood, dragon bones, dragon saliva. Why? Gilgamesh is famous for slaying a dragon. A Chinese legend tells about a guy named Yu that surveyed the land of China. It says, after the flood, he surveyed the land and divided it into sections. He built channels to drain the water off to the sea and make the land livable again. Many snakes and dragons were driven from the marshlands. Yeah, that's just normal. If you want to build a city, you got to, drive off the dragons and then build your city. I mean, it was expected. You got to drive the dragons off, okay? Why would the Chinese calendar have 11 real animals, the pig, the duck, the dog, and a dragon? Why would they put a mythical animal in there? Could it be that at the time they came up with these 12 symbols, there were 12 real animals? Here's one of the oldest pieces of pottery on planet Earth. It's a piece of slate from Egypt, first dynasty of United Egypt. It shows long-necked dragons. We make replicas of it if you want to get one for a prize for your bus route, for some give out to the kid who does whatever, they'll go crazy over this thing. It's half-size replicas of the oldest piece of pottery on Earth. Why would they put long-necked dinosaurs on pottery 3,800 years ago? Here's 2 long-necked dinosaurs with a sheep in between their mouths. Here's a hippo tusk from the 12th century BC showing an animal with a long neck and a long tail. Here's a cylinder seal showing what appears to quite obviously be long-necked dinosaurs. The Bible talks about a fiery flying serpent in Isaiah 14. Wait a minute, a fiery flying serpent? Well, if you read the story of Herodotus says he went to a certain place in Arabia, almost exactly opposite Buto, to make inquiries concerning the winged serpents. On my arrival, I saw the backbones and ribs of serpents in such numbers as it's impossible to describe. The winged serpent is shaped like the water snake. Its wings are not feathered, but resemble very closely those of the bat. The people where the bones lie at the entrance of a narrow gorge between steep mountains. The story goes that with the spring, the winged snakes come flying from Arabia towards Egypt, but are met in this gorge by the bird called ibises, who forbid their entrance and destroy them all. The book of Josephus talks about the fiery flying serpent that Moses had to kill when he came to the land of Ethiopia. And he ended up marrying the princess of the Ethiopians, and which is why his sister got mad at him later for marrying an Ethiopian. Not because she was black necessarily, but because of how this all happened. You read the story in Josephus' book. Anyway, in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, it talks about in 793 AD, about the fiery dragons flying across the firmament. The Babylonian god Marduk has shown pictured on a fire-breathing dragon. You say, Brother Hovind, now you don't believe in fire-breathing dragons, do you? Yeah, I believe there were some. We cover all that in our videotape about Leviathan, but Job chapter 41 talks about Leviathan. It says, out of his mouth go burning lamps and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils go a smoke. You know, I've seen deacons do that at Southern Baptist churches. Okay, so that's no big deal. But his breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. Now, wait. Was there really a fire-breathing dragon? Well, you better watch the Leviathan video about the fire-breathing dragon. But if you get a Catholic Bible, you find the book of Daniel has 2 extra chapters in it. It's part of the Apocrypha books, okay? Daniel 13 and 14. Very interesting reading, definitely not Scripture, okay? But in Daniel 14, it says, there was a great dragon in the place, and the Babylonians worshipped him. And the king said to Daniel, behold, thou canst not say now that this is not a living God. Adore him, therefore. And Daniel said, I adore the Lord my God, for he is the living God, but that is no living God. But give me leave, that's permission, you military guys know about leave, okay? And I will kill this dragon without sword or club. And the king said, I give thee leave. Then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair, and boiled them together and made lumps, and put them into the dragon's mouth, and the dragon burst asunder. What a strange story. Let me give you the Hovind translation, okay? The Bible tells us that Daniel was a man who understood science. Those are the kind that Nebuchadnezzar took away at that time, okay? And Daniel would have known full well that pitch is made from tree sap, and it's very sticky. Fat is salty tasting, and almost all animals like things that are salty tasting, and hair won't digest. So he made little lumps of pitch, fat, and hair, tossed them in. The dragon loved them, swallowed them, couldn't digest them. And they plugged up his intestinal tract. And these were the days before Roto-Rooter, and so he burst asunder. You figure it out, okay? Anyway, Saddam Hussein has quite an ego problem. He thinks he is Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated. George Bush always called him Saddam Hussein. I wondered, why does he call him Saddam? His name is Saddam. Well, Saddam means prince. Saddam means horse's rear end. So he called him Saddam Hussein. Anyway, Saddam issued currency with his picture in front of Nebuchadnezzar. Saddam spent a fortune rebuilding the ancient city of Babylon. Did you know ancient Babylon was discovered, buried in the dry sand over there? The bricks were just nearly perfectly preserved by the dry sand. So they excavated ancient Babylon and rebuilt it. Babylon was totally rebuilt in the last 20 or 30 years, I believe. Saddam put a brick about every 10 feet around the wall that says, I am Saddam Hussein. I have rebuilt Babylon the Great. I am a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. But on that wall, they found carvings of lions and carvings of dragons. Now, I can understand why they'd put a lion on there. I mean, we know about lions. But why would they put carvings of dragons on a brick wall 2,600 years ago? Maybe because they knew about dragons. They're still there. You can go see them. A friend of mine was there as a soldier. He said, yep, they're still here. Dragons still on the wall from 2,600 years ago. Ishtar Gate is covered in them. Lions and dragons. Now, we made a model of it for Dinosaur Adventureland. If you want to come to Pensacola, that's a little closer than Iraq for most of you. But Alexander the Great said his soldiers were scared by dragons when they conquered part of India in 300 BC. This Roman mosaic shows 2 long-necked dragons fighting or kissing. Now, that would be necking. Wow. Anyway, how did the Romans know about dragons in 200 AD? St. George is famous for slaying a dragon in 275 AD. Beowulf slew 2 dragons, and the third one killed him. You should try to read the Beowulf story in Old English. Good luck. That's English. 1,500 years ago, that was English. I can only read one word on the page. It says, duh. But anyway, when they translate the story to modern English, the story tells us Beowulf killed Grendel the dragon by pulling off one of its arms, and the creature bled to death. Pulled off his arm? Well, they found a Babylonian cylinder seal showing a guy pulling the arm off a dragon. Interesting.